All right, today I'm actually going to be doing another installation guide. This time I'm going to be doing EndeavourOS with Niri and Noctalia Shell. And I'm actually going to be doing this with installing DCLI from scratch. We're going to do no desktop again with this installer. So we're going to go ahead and start the installer. I'm going to do an online installation to get the most up-to-date packages here. EndeavourOS is a great starting point, outside of CacheOS. I feel like CacheOS is like the most popular right now, but EndeavourOS is a very close to like stock Arch experience, but with a, GUI installer and easy to kind of get things going. Not to say that actually Arch install is so easy nowadays that like it's not really a huge thing. I do have a current issue because of one of the ports being blocked on my internet because of my internet provider. For whatever reason, I can't get the NTP to sync for an Arch install. Every other distro works. I will work around that, but I just didn't feel like getting into it right now. But EndeavourOS is like the next best thing when it comes to a stock Arch installation. So we're just going to go through and get this all installed. I'm just going to do no desktop like I said before. Go ahead and go do next. And then here you can actually choose, your packages and everything. This is going to be installing quite a few extra packages that you may or may not need, wget, v, and, I don't really need rsync, maybe some of the Python things. And there's a couple other things that you really don't need out of the box, and if you do need them, you can obviously install them, but some of these are just nice to have applications, so you can choose which ones you do or don't want in here. And I'm just gonna deselect a few of them, and then I always deselect all the EndeavourOS packages. I don't need any of the extras that is being installed there. And then desktop based common packages like X11 GPU drivers, probably gonna want a lot of these things installed onto your system. So for package management, they do come with Yay. If you do want to not have EA, you can uncheck that, but it actually has some extra packages and things to be able to manage your packages there. And then for file systems, you probably a lot of these things you probably will end up using. So you can keep a lot of these things. As far as like fonts goes, you can probably get rid of a lot of the fonts and stuff that it comes with, but I'm going to go ahead and keep a lot of this. Don't have any Intel on here, so I'm going to remove that. But yeah, you can go through, do whatever you want with these. All right, and then so we're just going to go next once you get through all your packages here, and then I'm going to go for Grub here. It doesn't have an option for the Lyman like CacheOS did. You can install that manually if you do want to, but I'm just going to go for Grub here, and then go to next. And then I'm going to choose my drive, which is this one. I'm going to erase the entire disk. And you can add swap. I never just do like swap to file is good enough. And then I'm going to do ButterFS because I want to add snapshots and things like that. Oops, didn't mean to click that. And then I'm going to go next. And then you're just going to fill in the information for your computer. So I'm just going to do done. And we're just going to do test as the computer name. And go ahead and use that. And we'll go next. And then we'll just go ahead and install it, and then I'll be right back after the installation, so we can reboot and start setting everything up. And so like I said, we're going to install Niri with Noctalia, and then we're going to use DCLI to get everything actually set up. As far as like getting everything actually configured on your system and setting it up, all of that will be very similar. If you want to skip over the DCLI setup portion to get Noctalia and it's everything configured and set up within your system, you can do that if you want to, but I kind of just want to add the DCLI option for those of you wanting to know how to like set it up kind of from scratch and get like modules and everything set up on your system. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then while this is loading, as always, if you've been, enjoying my content, please consider liking and subscribing on the video. Really helps things out. If you want to support me with my, Linux and content creation journey here, you can do so at kofi.com/theblackdog. And I did a post yesterday about whether if you guys would be interested in kind of a one-on-one type Linux support, option. It would cost like a small fee, for that for me to be able to, do that long term. So I'm just interested if you guys would be interested in something like that, so I can help you guys, set up different configurations or help you set up dot files or, and, distro installations and things like that when you have issues. It's going to be more for, the beginner crowd that need help, with, getting things set up and kind of getting, off the ground and then into a position where you can start doing those things on your own, kind of teach you, how to get to where you need to go. Yeah, so if you're interested in that type of thing, just let me know in the comments below. I'm considering it, but I know a lot of my audience probably knows a lot of that, but also a lot of you watch these videos where you need help, get everything, installed. So a little bit of a mixed bag when it comes to the audience that I, have grown here. So let me know in the comments below. Once this is finished, we'll get right back into it. All right, so we're back here. We're going to go ahead and restart now that it's finished. So we're just going to go ahead and click restart and click done. While it's restarting, if you're not familiar with what DCLI is, you can check out my previous videos. But it is a arch approach to having a declarative system, and what I mean by declarative is actually declaring everything that is installed on your system. All of your packages and everything that you have on your system will be in a file, so that way you can review it and look at it and see what's on your system, and you can create different modules and things to install packages in one clean swoop, and you can really get more granular in your actual system. So it takes like the NixOS approach to creating your system, but this is made for Arch. All right, so we've rebooted and we're here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and then Yay is installed by default on here. We're actually gonna do Yay SYU just to make sure everything is up to date, which it should be since we did the online installation, and it is. So everything is up to date here. So now I can actually do Yay -S DCLI Arch Git. So this is going to install it, and to make sure you're getting the latest build, because sometimes it takes a little while on the AUR to get it, I always do rebuild -- rebuild on here, and then it's going to ask, there's two providers for cargo, and I'm going to install just the rust up version here. All right, and then you can just go through and hit enter with all the prompts here to get everything installed, and then it's going to build from cargo the actual DCLI tool, and then we can get started on configuring everything on our system. All right, and then we can go and click proceed with installation. And so now DCLI is actually installed, and we can do a DCLI-S help just to make sure it is installed, and it gives a overview of all the different options here. And so we're going to clear that, and to get everything set up, to get the actual configuration file to be created, you do a DCLI init. And then what this does is creates all of the files and folders that you need to get started. And then you're going to describe the machine that you're using here. And I'm just going to say this is a test workbench. And then it is showing here that I don't have Snapper or Timeshift installed to have the actual backups created. And then you can see here that it has the actual structure of everything, so you can know where to go to get everything, start getting it set up. And then the next step is to edit your host file to get like your defaults and stuff set up. And then you can edit your base packages, and then you can run DCLI validate to make sure everything's set up correctly. And then DCLI sync is how you actually sync your system and install the packages and modules that you have created. So what I'm going to do is actually clear this, and then I'm going to do a DCLI edit. And then DCLI edit actually brings up all of your configuration files here. So the config file is just showing the active host that's on your system. And then Don test is here, and then I only have two modules, which is an example option and then a base option that has like a bunch of basic things that you can install onto the system here. So if I go to Don test, I can open that. By default, it's going to open a nano. You can actually install, whatever you want to have. But this is like your base configuration. And then you can see here, I don't have, any modules or anything enabled here. And then I don't have any packages installed or anything. So, and then you can see the different system backup options that we have here. So you can actually back up your Arch configuration. So that way, like the actual directory is backed up. You can say how many times you want that to be backed up. And if you want it to be automatic, by default, it is, set to true, and up to 5, you can change that to whatever you want. And then what that's doing is, so like when you make changes in your configuration, it is a file. So you want to have that backed up just in case you make some major change and screw something up. You have the option to go back and then do a DCLI sync to resync to where you were before. And then we have the actual system files backup, which is actually going to back up your actual files outside of the Arch configuration. Be able to back up and sync with that. And then you can also turn off or on if you want it to sync with updates or with DCLI sync as well. And then the tool that you want to use to do it. And there are some other options that you can do for updates. You can do a pre and a post script. So if you want, some things to run or do some things, each time you do an update, you can add that. And then you can also have it update with Flatpak, whether you want it to be user or not user. We won't get into, setting up Flatpak right now, but you really just need to install Flatpak and then enable it and then make sure you set if you want this to be system or user. And then auto prune is every time you do a sync, it's going to check for packages that have been removed from all of your configuration files. So that way, if you have removed it, it's going to automatically, remove those from your system. So yeah. And I did add something new that I have not really, shown off yet, which are these processing modes. So you can either do parallel, which is going to install, all the packages and everything at once, or you can do sequential. So like based on the order of the packages and the enabled modules that you have, it's going to do everything one by one. It does take a little bit longer to install things, but from my experience, I do like the sequential a little bit better. So I'm going to actually enable that so you guys can see what that looks like. And then I'm just going to go ahead and save this file and then exit. And then I can do a DCLI validate just to make sure everything is still good to go as far as my configuration goes. And it does show the configuration is valid. All right, so now we could actually start getting the actual configuration set up before we actually start installing packages here. So, all right, so now what I'm going to do is actually create a module for the Niri configuration. So basically what I can do is do a make dir, and we're going to do from the home directory .config and then arch config. This is where the directory is created for your actual files and everything. And then we're going to actually create the folder under modules, and we're going to create a folder called Niri. All right, so that's been created. So I just cleared that out, and then we can go and cd into that directory. Obviously make sure it is actually, created. All right, so now we're in the Niri directory. Should not have anything in there. And then we're just going to create our first, file here. All right, so now I want to actually create the module file that is going to be kind of like the host file. So I can actually create, multiple YAML files, because YAML is the type of file that is used to declaratively, manage your system. So basically what I will do to create that file is I can do a nano module.yaml, which is going to create this file, and then I can edit the file. So it's going to be a new file within the system since I'm already in the directory of Niri. And so in this directory, I'm going to add a description for this, and then this is just going to be like host file for Niri module. And then here I can actually list package files that I'm going to create the actual module. So if you've seen, some of my other videos, you can see I have like multiple YAML files that are created in a single module. This is how you would actually split those up and create those. So I can have, for instance, a packages.yaml, and then I can have a, let's do default apps.yaml, and we'll do a quick shell.yaml. All right, that's all we need for right now. I'm not going to do any .file syncing or hooks or anything as of right now for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and save that and then exit. So now we have exited out of that. And now if we do an ls, we have that module.yaml file, and then we just need to create the other files as well. So now we're just going to create a nano packages.yaml. Might help if I spelled it right. It's created a new file here, and then in this packages.yaml file, I like to add the descriptions, but you don't really have to do this part. And if you're on like a GUI already, then you can actually just like copy and paste this or do this in a little bit different manner. And then I'm just going to name this and say it's packages needed for Niri module. Actually, I did not put the quotations in the other one, so that one is not going to figure correctly. So I'll go back and edit that after this. But okay, so now I can do packages, and then I can list all of the packages that are needed. So obviously I'm going to need Niri, and then I'm going to need the portal. So XDG desktop Portal GNOME, it's called. And then a lot of the other things that you would normally install, you won't really need for a window manager, like the clipboard and Waybar and stuff like that, because a lot of these new shells like Noctalia that we're going to install today handles all of that for you. So you won't need like a notification daemon or anything like that. So really we just need Fuzzle to get started, Alacrity, as well as the default terminal there, and then that's pretty much all we'll need. You can always add more dependencies later if needed, but we'll go ahead and save that and go ahead and exit. And then I will update the module.yaml file and make sure I have the correct syntax here. All right, so if I do a ls, now we have the 2 packages there. And then so now we just need to create the default apps one. So I'm going to do a nano default apps.yaml. And I know you're probably thinking this is a lot of work just to get everything installed, but really this is doing is declaring your entire system so it's reproducible and easy to manage. So down the road, this is going to make your life easier if you have to reinstall your system or install it onto another system. You'll already have all these modules and everything created, so that way you can actually just pull down from your Git repo and then install these automatically. So like if I was installing the system, I would already be set up because I already have all these modules and stuff created. If I just, it's downloaded my Git repo for my Arch config, I already have all these. So I would have had the Niri, and everything set up, out of the box. So it would have been really easy to do. But for now, we obviously just have to, get everything set up. So it does take a little while to get those things, set up within your system. So next, like I said, we're doing the description for this next one, which we are doing default packages for Niri module. And then we will do packages. And then for default apps, I like to use Kitty, Nemo for my file manager. And then I prefer to use Fish instead of Bash. Might not get that set up today, but let's get Fast Fetch as well. You can come back and add more apps here, but I think that's a good start. I also wanted to install Zed as well. I like to use that as my editor. And then I'll also install Helix too, because I like to use that instead of Nan. So we'll get that set up as well. And then I think that's good for now for packages, but you would just come in here and add all the packages that you would need. And then so we're going to save this and then write it and then go ahead and get out of that. And then we need to do the quick shell one. Now, let's just make sure all those packages are indeed created. So you can see them there. And then, so we're going to do another nano quick shell.yaml. All right, and I'm going to add quick shell first on here since I did the sequential option because I want the Git version. So quick shell.git. And then we'll also install the Noctalia shell. That's going to come from the AUR. So I'm just going to Noctalia. I always say that wrong, but shell. And I'm going to get the Git version, but you can get the regular version as well. I just like to live on the edge and get the most up-to-date everything. And then, so yeah, so that's good. And if you want to, install DMS, you would add DMS-shell-git on there for that one. But that looks good, and so we'll go ahead and save that and get out of that. And so all the modules are created now. So I can do an ls and make sure everything's there. And I will just log into the module.yaml file real quick just to make sure everything was set up correct. And then we can do a DCLI validate, make sure everything has passed as far as valid YAML syntax and all that good stuff. So everything looks good there. And then we're going to do a DCLI module enable. And so now I have Niri as an option here. So we're actually going to enable Niri, and then it says run sync now to install the packages. So we can go ahead and do that. And then so it's now installing the packages here that we need. All right, so it looks like that has completed. Noctalia shell and everything has been installed. One thing that I did realize that we did not install was an actual greeter like SDDM or something like that. So we can do is add that to our configuration. So we can do a DCLI edit, and then we'll add that to the we'll add that to packages and add SDDM, save and exit, and then clear. And then do another DCLI sync, and then it's going to install SCDM. And we could do enable now, which I actually just learned that that's a thing. SCDM. All right, so now we have SDDM installed, and as you can see, we have Niri installed as well. So we're gonna go ahead and log in under Niri here. All right, so now we're under Niri and we have our actual system set up. So Super T is Alacrity. So we're actually going to open Alacrity real quick. So we're actually going to go into the configuration file for Niri, so we can get some things configured here so we can get the Noctalia shell working as intended. So I'm actually going to use Helix for that. And so I'm going to do Helix and then .config / Niri / config.kdl. All right, so now I am in here and we're going to go down and we're going to find the startup section here. So yeah, we have startup waybar here. So we're actually going to go in here and update this to actually be, I believe the command is QS and then -C and then Noctalia Shell. So that's a command to have that, working on startup. And then what we can do is we will actually write and quit. All right, so we're just gonna reboot real quick. So we will actually be met with the SDDM and then log in, be met with Noctalia Shell. All right, so we've been rebooted and now let's just log in. All right, cool. So now we have Noctalia launching at startup. And then we still have this pop-up that pops up every time, so we can actually get rid of that. So if we go back into Alacrity, which we'll set this up to be Kitty here in a second, but if we go back into Alacrity here, we can use Helix or Nano or whatever you want to use, get back into the configuration file. All right, so we're back into the configuration file here. And then, so if you scroll down to where it shows this line here, skip at startup, we can actually just remove that. And then now you see that that is correct. So now that won't pop up anymore on startup. So what else we want to do is actually go back in here and make some adjustments to the actual configuration file here. So we'll actually go ahead and make the same adjustments that I made in the previous video to get like the window gaps and everything the way I like to have them. So I'm going to go here. Make that 9. I always do focus center column as never, but I do like to add always center single column, and then I typically do change this proportion. So I actually take that out and then add a new line down here. For 1. And then default width I like to use as 5 as well. And I don't like to actually use focus ring. I prefer to use the border. So we can set border here to have that as on. So if you just uncomment the off and then comment focus ring color to off, that'll change that for you there. And then another thing that I typically do here is uncomment this as well. So what that's going to do is actually get rid of like the title borders and stuff like that to get a more clean look like you would on most window managers. And then we'll keep all this the same. And then under the window rule here, I'll change this to 9 to match what we set it for up top. And then I do add a draw border with background to false, and this is going to get a much cleaner look, so you don't have like the extra piece I'm showing in the actual border itself. And then I can actually change this terminal to be Kitty instead of Alacrity. And then I'll actually change the mod D. I like to use mod space, and this is actually going to be, we're actually going to make this the launcher for Noctalia. And let me actually look up the command for that. I don't know it off the top of my head. But if I go back to the Noctalia, and so application launcher is actually pretty long. So it's QS-C And then it's Noctalia Shell IPC call launcher toggle. All right, so that should be good for right now. So we're actually going to write that out. And it looks like it did update because my thing actually went to the center there. Let's see if mod space works. Yes, mod space does work, bringing up that there on a toggle. And then if I get rid of this and then open up a new window, it is bringing up Kitty. So we are good there. Oh, and I did actually install fish. So I do want to change my shell real quick. So that is chsh-s, and then we need to do the path for fish, which is typically user/bin/fish, and then change the shell. Just to check, we can do a echo shell, and it's still showing bash, but let's quit out of this and open up a new terminal, and then do the same thing, echo shell. It's just showing. Let's make sure fish is actually in that location. Yep, user bin fish. So let's set it in the act kitty configuration real quick. So we're gonna do that helix .config /kitty/kitty.conf, and this should actually create that file if it's not already been created, and load a new file. And then we're going to do shell and fish, and then we're gonna write and quit that. And then we're going to open up a new shell. There we go. Now we have fish as our shell there. So we're already looking a little bit better here. And then we're actually going to go into the Noctalia shell here. And so first, let me get a wallpaper. So I'm actually just going to install my repo so I can get a wallpaper real quick. So I'm going to do a git clone .config.git. All right, so we installed my repo here. So I'm actually going to go and update the wallpaper. First, we need to set the wallpaper folder to the correct folder here. We're going to go to arch config and then wallpapers and then select folder. And then so now I should be able to go in here and go to wallpapers, and here are all my wallpapers. And we're just going to select one. It's like one I haven't used in a long time. We're going to go with this one. All right, so that has been updated and looks much better. And then let's go into settings real quick and go to color schemes. And we have dark mode right now. I always like the capuchin option. That's just a me thing. But you can use the wallpaper colors if you install Matugan. So let's actually do that real quick so we can see what that looks like. So we can do a DCLI edit and then go into the package option here, and then we're going to go ahead and add Matugan in here. We're going to save and write. And as you can see, I did not update, so I'm going to do another DCLI edit here, and then edit my host configuration file, and then editor down here. I'm going to make that helix. And I don't have Peru installed, but I can just make that yay to have a complete option here. So we're going to go ahead and save that and then close out. So now if we do a DCLI edit, and we'll just go back into the packages folder. Yes, now it's doing helix as the option. So we're going to go ahead and quit that. And then we're doing DCLI sync since now we have the Matugan option available. So it's going to install. All right, so now that that's installed, we should be able to go to the settings here and then go to color schemes. And yeah, so now use wallpapers is an option here. And then so we select that. Yeah, so it just changed right away to the different colors. And I remember that it also has these templates that you can use and select. So it looks like some of these are already selected. So like Niri, turn Niri on, and Kitty. And so if I now open a terminal, yeah, so Kitty is now actually themed with the colors of the wallpaper and has the border now as well. So I guess that's the Niri portion of the theming that you have there. And then I should be able to also open like the files here, and yeah, that looks like it's themed as well. Only thing that hasn't changed is like these. I guess I just have to download a different icon pack to have for this option, but otherwise, very easy to kind of rice in your system here with having the Noctalia shell option. So definitely a good option to go with when if you want to be able to quickly and easily kind of configure everything within your system. So now you have a pretty good configuration that you can, kind of theme and be pleased with the Noctalia shell, and you have set it up with your DCLI configuration. So you continue to add, more packages through DCLI into the YAML files, and then you can also do a DCLI merge to get all of the packages and start moving those into packages. And you can also manage your services as well with a DCLI merge dash services. You can also do default apps as well now with a DCLI merge dash defaults. And that will add all the default apps that you have within your configurations. You can change defaults as far as like your file manager and explorer and your terminal and different options like that. But yeah, if you've been enjoying my content, please definitely subscribe and like the video. That helps the channel out a lot. And if you want to support my journey and my content creation, you can do so at kofi.com/theblackdawn. And otherwise, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.